Windows 10 version 1809, better known as the October 2018 update, was supposed to be a routine Windows update, and at first it looked normal enough, with some new features like dark mode and file explorer, clipboard history, stuff like that. But within days, people started upgrading and realizing personal files were missing from documents and pictures folders. They thought the files maybe just moved somewhere else, but they were just gone. And that is about the worst thing an operating system update can do. People started posting horror stories about losing years of files, and this spread fast across forums like Reddit because unlike a buggy update crashing something, this was people saying Windows had literally deleted their data. And the backlash got so bad that Microsoft pulled the update just 4 days after launch, which is almost unheard of for a major Windows release. Then it got worse because while investigating the file deletion bug, more problems started to show up. There were driver issues, Intel-related bugs, and unbelievably another bug involving zip files overwriting things incorrectly, which was horrible timing right after this whole data loss thing. It just made the whole update feel like it was cursed by something. Microsoft eventually traced the deletion issue to a bug involving redirected folders, fixed it, and relaunched the update over a month later. But a lot of damage was still done, and a lot of people still point to Windows 1809 as the update that shattered trust in Windows updates, because if users expect one thing from an operating system update, it's that it doesn't touch your personal files, but this one did, and it deleted them. The 49.7-day Windows crash bug is one of those old Windows 95 stories that sounds kind of made up, but it actually was real. Basically, some systems could start hanging or behaving unpredictably if they stayed running for 49.7 days straight. And the reason was that Windows had an internal timer counting milliseconds since boot, and after about 4.2 billion milliseconds, which works out to 49.7 days, the number overflowed and rolled back to zero, which doesn't sound like it should break a computer, but parts of Windows weren't handling that reset properly, and in some cases, the system could just freeze. There was also this running joke at the time that the real miracle was getting Windows to stay up for 49 days straight in the first place, which was funny if you're just a user, but for servers, kiosks, and machines that eventually are left running that long, this was an actual problem, and Microsoft did eventually patch it in later versions. The con/con crash is another old Windows 95 bug. People figured out that typing weird paths like c/con/con could actually crash or freeze Windows, sometimes even throw out a blue screen. You'd think typing random gibberish into a file path shouldn't be able to take down an operating system, but somehow here it could. The reason goes way back to old MS-DOS, where names like con, prn, aux, and null weren't normal file names, right? But they were reserved system device names. Windows inherited all of these old compatibility baggages, and under certain conditions, using those names in broken paths like con/con could trigger an actual crash. And because it was so easy to do, people started running pranks with it. You could even hide one of these paths in a hyperlink or email and potentially hang someone's PC just by getting them to click on it. That's when it stopped being just a weird bug and started looking like an actual security problem, and Microsoft eventually patched it in 2000. However, con still exists, and modern Windows won't let you make a file called con, but it crashing your computer is no longer a thing. The Windows Vista, or Vista, I'm not sure, slow file copy bug became a problem that affected almost every user because it was about copying files. Not some obscure advanced copying feature, but literally like dragging files from one folder to another. And somehow Vista managed to make that broken. People would start copying files and get absurd time estimates and progress bars that seemed just to be stuck forever, or transfers that crawled so slowly it felt like the computer was like, I don't know, thinking or something instead of doing anything. There was even a joke that Vista spent more time calculating a file transfer than actually copying it, and it often felt fundamentally wrong, especially with lots of small files, network transfers, or external drives. People would see copy jobs that just looked frozen, right? That's where Vista got this reputation of infinite file copying, even if it wasn't literally endless. And because Vista already had quite a rough reputation with driver problems, this became quite symbolic of it all. People started saying Vista couldn't even copy files properly, which is pretty bad for an operating system. Microsoft did acknowledge the problem and pushed fixes, and later really leaned on Service Pack 1 as a big improvement, which by most accounts helped a lot, but Vista's reputation was still damaged, and some people were even using third-party tools like Terracopy just to avoid Vista's built-in copying, which was just sad for Microsoft, and this became one of those classic Vista failures people still talk about to this day. The Windows 98 plug-and-play demo crash is probably the most famous live software failure ever, not just for Microsoft, but maybe just in tech history. It happened in 1998, of course, during a keynote with Bill Gates, where Microsoft was showing off one of Windows 98's big selling points, plug-and-play. The idea that you could plug in hardware and it would just work. Sounds crazy, I know, but it was 1998. So the presenter plugged in a USB scanner live on stage to demonstrate it, Windows started to recognize the device, and then the machine crashed immediately with a blue screen, which was live in front of thousands of people. And the crowd actually started to laugh and applaud because it was just such an unbelievably funny demo failure. Bill Gates kinda saved it by saying, "That must be why we're not shipping Windows 98 yet." Later, Microsoft said the crash may have been partly caused by the specific scanner they used for the demo, not just plug and play completely failing, but clearly there was some sort of bug with Windows itself. Print Nightmare became one of the scariest Windows bugs because it involved something nobody thinks about, which was the Windows print spooler. You probably don't even know what that is, but in short, it's a service for handling printers. But in 2021, it was found that this boring background service had a bug that could potentially be a path to full system compromise. The panic started when researchers uncovered flaws in how Windows handled printer drivers, and the big fear was attackers could exploit it to run code with system privileges, which is just the highest level of control on any Windows machine. And because the print spooler was enabled on a huge number of PCs, including critical servers, people started saying almost every Windows machine was exposed. Initially, there was some confusion on whether Microsoft had already patched this, but then the researchers showed serious problems were still there. That led Microsoft to then push out emergency out-of-band security patches, which they only really do when something is seriously bad. But then more related vulnerabilities just kept showing up, so some admins were just disabling the print spooler entirely, and on top of that some patches broke printing in organizations, so Microsoft was fighting a security crisis and a printer crisis at the same time, which all lasted a few weeks and is in my opinion probably the most embarrassing modern Windows bug today. Windows ME had a lot of problems, but the system restore issues were especially bad because system restore was supposed to be the thing that saved you when Windows broke. It was actually one of Windows ME's big selling points, the idea that if a bad driver or software install messed up your PC, you could just roll the system back. For home users at the time, that actually sounded pretty amazing. The problem is people started running into some cases where system restore itself didn't work properly. Restore points could get corrupted or restores could fail. And then there was the infamous 2001 date bug where restore points created after September 8th, 2001 could stop working correctly, meaning the recovery feature could fail without users actually knowing it. There was also another problem where malware could end up preserved inside restore points, so people cleaning viruses sometimes found system restore could basically bring those infections back, which led to the long-running advice to disable system restore during malware cleanup. And the irony of all of this is that the feature itself was actually a good idea, it was just rough in Windows ME. Microsoft patched a lot of it, and system restore survived into later Windows versions and became much more respected. But in ME, the thing designed to rescue broken PCs probably ended up contributing to more breaks than any other feature. And finally, the Luna memory leak comes from Windows XP's Luna theme and is very well known in the space for better or for worse. Because it wasn't one single catastrophic bug, it was more like this early cluster of early XP problems that got remembered as the theme that just ate up your RAM. When XP launched, the Luna interface was a pretty big change. It had rounded buttons, bright colors, animated menus, it just looked futuristic compared to older Windows. But all of that polish came with new complexity, and early users started noticing systems getting sluggish over long uptimes, especially if you had lots of windows open, or used Explorer heavily, or just left the PC running for a long time. Things could just start feeling slow, with things slowing down, graphical glitches, random Explorer issues, and general memory and resource usage creeping up. And naturally people blamed Luna, and whether Luna itself was always a direct cause or not, people absolutely believed switching back to Windows Classic made their PC run better. Yeah, that was a real thing people did. They'd literally turn off the flashy XP look because they thought that the theme was leaking resources. But a lot of this really was early XP being rough around the edges before service packs cleaned things up. Once Microsoft pushed major updates, especially SP1 and SP2, most of those problems faded, but Luna still kept a reputation of being this buggy theme, and for some people still does so to this very day. If you enjoyed, please hype and share the video, comment about the bug that you found the most interesting, and thank you for watching.